one time, okay, so two cars ago, I literally got up from the financing table and was like, okay, I'm ready to go. And the guy was like, well, we haven't even signed the paperwork yet. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. What have we been doing?
I'm Josh Sigman.
And I'm Bryn Rouse.
I'm a mortgage guy with a passion for helping people with their money and all things business. Bryn is my co-host.
And I'm a marketing girl. I am literally obsessed with it. Oh, and Josh has showed me how to save money. Quite a bit, actually.
Because of her obsession, I hired her to do my marketing.
And we've worked together for 10 years.
We launched Sigman Sense in 2020, a podcast about money. It's a podcast that teaches people how to save more, give more, create wealth, and retire early.
And we recorded and published 34 episodes. People liked it, and it was so fun.
But most importantly, we helped people. So we're excited to announce we're doing a second season. And we're mixing things up. We're moving away from money talks to focus on all things business. Leadership, management, team building, book reviews, hiring, firing, operations.
Motivating teams, lead generation, time management, personality profiling, closing skills.
And of course, money.
And marketing.
We are inviting you to continue this journey with us, and we want your input. What topics would you like to see covered? Email all of your ideas to our podcast email address, sigmansense@gmail.com.
And be sure to click that subscribe button when you visit our channels. You'll get notified when we drop new episodes.
Are you ready? Season 2, Getting Down to Business. Welcome to Sigman Sense. All right, well, welcome back to Sigman Sense. I'm excited to carry on this conversation because if you've been listening in the last few episodes, we're carrying on the conversation about what typically the best salespeople in all industries do. You know, the conversation kind of starts with monster prospecting, and then it goes into all sorts of things like listening skills and marketing clients' actual needs. And really now you're getting the point of sale now, which is closing skills. But before you do closing skills, you really have to identify the buyer's shift. And this is something that's super interesting to me.
Yeah.
It's fun to talk about because once you understand it, it's super easy to identify, in my opinion. And it's a very big weakness for most people. It really is a fun conversation. So Are you excited about this one today?
Yeah, I do. I like the buyer shift a lot because of what you just said. It ties in everything that we've already talked about. And I feel like in order to be a great listener, you have to get lots of practice, which lots of practice comes from making lots of calls and putting a lot of appointments on the books.
Yep.
So that kind of covers your monster prospecting. And then
it's reps. It's getting reps in.
Yeah. Learning to be an active listener, which you have to be listening if you are going to identify the buyer shift. And what I like most about the buyer shift is that it simplifies things really well. And the sales pitch can be over pretty damn quickly if you are paying close enough attention. Yeah.
So let's define it, because I wasn't even aware of this term until probably 8-10 years ago. And so once I describe it, it's super easy to understand. Mm-hmm. And when you're looking for it, it's super easy to identify when you're looking for it. And I learned it from a Vistage coach years ago. So basically what you're looking at for a buyer's shift is it's literally the point where a buyer makes a buying decision. It's that moment in time that's fleeting, for the record, that the buyer says, yep, you're the right guy or gal for the job.
Yeah.
And at the time, and there might have been studies since then, but at the time I was told that the buyer shift lasts for only about 30 seconds.
Oh, meaning I was thinking like 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
No, it happens in a moment, but they stay in that frame of mind for only about 30 seconds. And so the reason why I'm pointing out how short, like this is not a minute, this is not a 5 minute, this is like 30 seconds. You got, this is the window. And why this is important to understand is that what most people do, especially people that aren't listening, that aren't paying attention, obviously
people that are
nervous or over the phone, right? Because a lot of the cues are face to face, like nonverbal cues, not verbal cues. But what happens is that a lot of times people talk through that buyer's pitch, and so
right on.
And then you have to kind of reclose and resell and maybe get back to that point, or maybe they have to think about it, right? Mm-hmm. And so,
or here's the other thing I want to point out. It's frustrating for someone that is ready to buy and the salesperson won't
shut up,
freaking close. That's like, now you're just getting on my freaking nerves. Like, stop talking. Let's just get this over with. Like, I made the decision a long time ago.
I'll give you a great example that I think about is like my decision-making process in buying a car very fast. the amount of time it takes to go through the freaking finance guy
is
maddening.
Like one time, okay, so 2 cars ago, I literally got up from the financing table and was like, okay, I'm ready to go. And the guy was like, well, we haven't even signed the paperwork yet. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. What have we been doing? Like, I was just done. I was tired. We've been there forever. There was a natural stopping point. I thought we were done and we hadn't started.
Fantastic.
It was agonizing. I'm like, can you email it to me? Like,
that's funny.
This is insane.
So let me kind of explain the thought process and why the correlation that you pointed out between listening skills and recognizing the buyer shift is so important. And really what it comes down to is it's easier to tell through stories, I guess. I'll just tell you my story, right? So the best one that I always tell is when I was going to buy some diamonds for my wife. And my mind got older and I thought it was the original, like her engagement ring. It was actually diamond earrings. So one time I was going to buy diamond earrings. And so she had been asking for years and I'd been saying no for years. And then I finally put out this, if I hit this thing for Christmas, I'm going to go ahead and get some diamond earrings for my wife.
Very nice.
And I was driving home and I remember thinking, oh my God, it's like almost Christmas time. And so I stopped at a place called, a jewelry store. I won't say it out loud. So a local jewelry store that I have to drive by literally every single day, both directions, right? And so I pull in and, I knew enough from buying an engagement ring and seeing all the infomercials about what kind of cost, carat, color, cut, and clarity, cost, color, cut, and
color, clarity, carat.
Yeah. So I knew the 5 C's. And so I kind of knew what I wanted to spend on these things. And so I went in there and I didn't know at the time I was actually talking to the owner. But I walk in and the owner is the one that actually greets me. And I say, and I'm a D personality. So all that means is like bullet points, buddy. And that's all I need. Right. But I'm also a student. And so usually like many of our clients, where they ask for, I'm looking for some professional advice here. Right. So I remember walking in and I said, okay, bud, this is what I'm looking for. I think I want A, B, C, D, and E. And he said, perfect. I can definitely help you out with that. So he brings out 3 different boxes of diamond earrings. And, it's obviously a low price, my price, and then a high price, and, different size diamonds and carats and colors and all that stuff. And by the way, they all look the same. Like, not true. They all look the same.
How dare you?
Some look bigger than others, but they all look the same. There we go. But they all look the same. So anyways, I'm sitting there and, he's walking through the benefits of each one. And
are you engaged at this point?
I think I was, because I was really trying to understand
what you were buying.
Yeah, like there's this much price difference between these two. Is this
wise? Like,
going from this color to this color, is it really that big of a difference? Versus inclusions, right? Like this inclusion you literally can't see, but it's an inclusion. So what's the difference between this SI or VVS or whatever else, right? And my point is that finally I got through the I understand it all, and I was like, honestly, I didn't know. I've never worn diamond earrings before. And so I finally came to the conclusion of, hey, out of curiosity, which one would you go with? And that was the question that many people were asking, whether or not they say it out loud. Like, hey, you're the boss. What should I do here?
Tell me what to do.
And so, but I literally said, well, what do you think is the best one? And so he picked up the most expensive one and said, if you're really trying to tell your wife that you love her, then this is the one you want to get. And I literally am reaching for my back pocket.
But it's still in your budget though?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Well,
did you tell him your budget?
All guys' budgets are less than what they are willing to spend when they tell somebody what their budget is.
Oh, okay.
This is what I want to spend. That way, when you go up, it's going to be okay. Right?
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
But yeah, it was within reason is the answer. Although no diamonds are investments, guys. They never come back. They always stay with the woman. Right? It's not an investment. So my wife is probably just kicking the TV right now.
They really aren't, but they damn sure are beautiful.
But they are pretty.
And they
are
sure
pretty.
do make things better
and
when
that night
you're a real pain in the ass.
Well, and when your wife gets those diamonds that night, it's a great night.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic investment.
Better be ready.
Right.
Better make it count.
Make it count. So that's unnecessary. I shouldn't have said that, but it's funny. So anyway, so I say, which one do you think? He said, well, if you really want to tell your lover, this is what you should get. And so I'm literally reaching for my back pocket, which is where my wallet is, which is called a
buyer shift.
It's literally
maybe you thought you were scratching your back.
Maybe, or my butt, because I was literally in my pocket. And I'm drawing like a gun, right? I'm drawing my wallet like, okay, this is a cue, like, shut up, dude.
Yeah.
And he keeps talking and he says, but the truth of the matter is you couldn't go wrong with any of these. And I let go of my wallet and I sat there. I said, well, shit, if I couldn't go wrong, then why would I pay the most for it, right? Right. And so I'm confused a little bit. And it's not that I was being cheap. It's like, if that's the truth, then I'm confused. And so I said the most dreaded words of all salespeople, which is,
I need to think about it.
I need to think about it. Right. So I left. So I'm driving home and I'm halfway home and I'm thinking about it. I was like, man, I should have just got him. Right. Like,
right. And there's nothing worse than like having to put something back on your to-do list.
Right. Well, and like having to go back and spend more time and have to find the same diamonds and remember everything.
And especially like, I don't know about you, but like when I'm going to make a purchase like that's like of any significant amount of money.
Stressful up front.
Well, I need to be in the right mood to move forward with that. Like, I got to be ready to spend money. And,
you're moody though.
And sometimes I'm not like, what'd you say?
Said you're moody though.
I'm incredibly moody. So like salespeople recognize my buyer shift because I'm real moody and it's going to go up real fast.
And for me and my personality, it's not the emotional moody thing, but for me, it's time, right? Like I just spent this much time there and I'm driving home a little frustrated because like now I've got to go back or I'm going to stop somewhere else. And this is that awkward moment too of like, well, should I check somewhere else? See if there's somebody else has a different opinion. But anyways, I'm halfway home and I remember out of the blue, I don't know why I didn't think about before, but one of Christy's good friends, Nicole, used to work at a diamond dealer out of California. I was like, oh my God, Nicole. Like, and so I picked up the phone and called Nicole and I was like, hey, sweetheart, I'm buying Christy some diamond earrings. Here's what I have in mind. And she literally all she said was, oh my God, I know exactly what you're looking for. I'm going to send you a picture real fast. And before I got home, actually, there's a picture on my cell phone. I looked at it and I said, how much is this? And she told me and it was totally in my budget. I was like, that sounds good. And she's like, cool. I just need your credit card information.
Send me a picture of your credit card.
That was it.
Done.
And before I got home. And so, I look back on that moment as a professional coach, right? And I think like, man, I should go back and tell that guy, like, you just screwed up a really bad, like a really expensive purchase. He lost because he didn't recognize the buyer shift.
Right.
And so, it's so interesting to me. And when I look back on, my early career, I know for sure that I did the same thing.
100%.
And it drives me nuts because sometimes 100%. I start to trap myself and I keep on like, oh, I forgot to say this part of my script. I still need to cover this detail. And sometimes, like you said, people are just done. Like, hey, you don't know that they've got to go pick up their kid in 30 minutes.
Right.
Like, if you can't wrap this shit up in 5 minutes, let's get the hell out of here. Like, I got to go. So,
but also it comes down to, recognizing personality styles.
Yep, that's true.
Like when someone comes in and says, this is my budget, this is the size, this is the product I want, boom, 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 boom.
And you've got it.
Follow suit with bullet points. This one's in your budget, this is the size, this is the this, and then move on down with bullet pointed things about each option, but follow suit with that.
Yep.
It's
mirroring, basic mirroring. That's exactly right.
Basic mirroring.
Yep.
Match and mirror, lead and pace, right? Yep. Like if they're quick speaking, you need to like be quick speaking because there's nothing worse than someone who talks really fast
and somebody else talking really slow.
It's like the sloth and the rabbit in Zootopia. That movie.
I haven't seen that movie.
Yes, you have.
Zootopia?
It's so cute.
Okay. Okay.
The receptionist is a sloth.
So let me give you an example though of, and this is a simple question and answer basis. Like I think about a lot now. The question typically that I get asked by people all the time is, well, when, like how soon in the process did the buyer shift happen and how early can it happen? And what's really interesting is it can actually happen before somebody even gets to you.
Yes.
Especially if you have a sales process, right? Like in my industry is a great example.
Yeah, this is a good example.
You typically are required to talk to a loan officer to get pre-qualified for a mortgage before you shop for a house. So you have a pre-qualification letter so you can make an offer with the pre-qualification letter so that it can prove the seller that you are qualified to buy this house, right? Well, that amount of time might be days, weeks, months, or years that my team might be working with a client before they find the home, right? So if we've done a great job up front in doing our job, keeping our promises, explaining everything, selling our team, our company, and me, and they feel comfortable and safe in that environment, then sometimes literally the sale's already over. Now all they're coming back is to sign paperwork because they're excited about buying their house. Right. So in that kind of example, the buyer shift literally might happen. And this is what it might sound like. Hey, Josh, I just got a house under contract for the weekend. We're supposed to close in 21 days. Now, can I come in and get some paperwork signed so I can get the mortgage off the ground? Can I get it started?
Yes.
Like the answer is yes. And I'm not going to speak a lot because
Don't
very
clearly
the buyer shift already happened, right?
Yeah. And one thing, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, but one thing that the reason it's so risky to miss the buyer shift is that you can start talking your way out of the sale by talking yourself into objections. Like you'll say something by accident that catches them
that they hadn't thought of.
That they hadn't even thought of.
So
now you're spoon feeding them objections for you to overcome. And so, yeah, I mean, you'd have to really be aware and understand like, hey, like, let's not make this more complicated than it has to be. Mm-hmm. But I think, again, that comes from like what we've talked about, like preparation. Like you got to be prepared to know like what you're going to say and when to also not need to say anything at all. And I do. I think it comes with a lot of practice.
Yep. And so the flip side is, so what happens if you've been talking for 30 minutes and you're trying to wrap up the sale and you have not recognized the buyer shift because it hasn't happened yet? Should you close?
No, I think that's at that point, I would probably like lay it on the table. Mm-hmm. Like I would say something like, okay, so what have I not covered? So let's like, what else have I not answered or what's holding you back? Mm-hmm. Or maybe try the assumptive close of like, okay, so the next step is signing paperwork. Are you ready for that? And give them a chance to say no. So I can say why.
Yep. Totally agree with it. So I was baiting to see what your answer was, but I absolutely think that when your gut says like, I'm not sure if the buyer shift has already happened or if they're even there yet, then giving that little bit of space to make sure that, do you have any other questions before we get the paperwork signed? Mm-hmm. You know, that's an assumptive close, right? Like the assumption
and you should see it at that point, whether they're hesitant or not.
Absolutely. And you go with your gut. If they get super fidgety, don't have eye contact. If it goes quiet on the phone because they're trying to whisper to their husband and they think that you can't tell that they're whispering to their husband, like say, hey, it sounds like you have more questions. What concerns do you have right now? Right?
Yeah. So what about in a situation where it's not there's nothing to sign? So you're talking about a relationship sale.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Hey, will you know, I think relationship sales are pretty loose in their nature anyway, because there's nothing to buy, there's nothing to sell. You're basically selling and closing around the idea of future business. So how do you feel like you sniff out BS?
Well, again, I love that because we're going to spend a lot of time in the closing skill part of it, which I think that there's some closing skills that come into play there. But I think what we're trying to focus on when it comes to the buyer's shift is if your gut says, oh, I think that they're ready, like shut up and sign here. Mm-hmm. Or in that case, like a relationship sale, say something along the lines of, what do you think this looks like with us moving forward? Like, how often do you want me to follow up with you? How many leads do you think you might be able to send per month? What do you expect from me? You know,
I actually really like that because what I'm picturing in my head is, you know, when you're having a conversation with someone over coffee, it's been 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and you kind of feel like, man, we haven't connected on anything. Also, the buyer shift in that moment, like when you're really trying to get to know somebody, you're looking for signs like leaning in.
Once again, nonverbal cues.
Responding back to you. Nodding, having input in the conversation. But we also find ourselves in situations where it's like, man, I've been talking like this entire time.
And I'm getting no feedback.
So know that like you haven't, like you're not there yet. So I love what you said, basically, is stop talking, ask a question.
Ask an open-ended question. It's not a yes or no answer. It's an open-ended question. It's the worst. So do you think that we can work together? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So now we're going to go into interrogation land. So I'm going to fire questions and you're going to answer yes or no.
Yeah. I'm going to tell a funny story about one of our dear friends that we actually still work with today. I'm not going to use the name.
Let me see if I can.
No, you'll grab on in like 2 seconds. So Britt and I have been relationship sales together for a decade, right? And so quite often we've had 1,000 conversations with different people.
So many.
Yeah, we walk into this one appointment together, and it was not a warm lead. It was literally, we were asked to go and like, hey, we need to possibly start working together. We were invited out of the blue, which is fantastic. We knew of each other.
Yeah.
We've been around each other, but we were invited.
Which also is super rare in our business.
Which is very, very rare in any
yeah.
unless you're
Come sell me.
right. And so I remember that we went in there and we had our conversation. We had our presentation. There was no feedback whatsoever that I could pick up on. And usually,
I think I know.
Right, and usually when we connect, usually what happens is if I'm not connecting with the person, that's why we are good together.
Yeah.
When I'm not connecting, usually Bryn is. So
Yeah.
I tend to
Tag
shut up
out,
and
yeah.
let Bryn do it. And sometimes when Bryn's not connecting, because on more of the emotional scope and I'm more of the logical and number scope, then she'll back out and I'll do the talking. So I remember I was like kind of backing out the conversation, like I'm not getting through. And then I recognized that Bryn wasn't getting through either. I was like, well, this like crash and burn, Mav.
Justine?
Crash and burn, Mav. This is not going well for us. And
it's if it's the meeting I'm thinking of, it was fast. Like we both
it was quick.
I mean,
within 4 or 5 minutes, we both were like, what is happening here? So we did answer all questions. We did ask opening questions. We did wrap up the meeting probably within 15, 20 minutes.
Yes.
And then we walked out, and I remember standing out in the parking lot, scratching my head, like, "What the hell just happened?"
What the hell
and
just happened?
You did as well. And then they came running out saying, "Hey, we're super excited to work with you. Can you come talk to our team? Like, come back and talk to your team." I was like, "I have no idea what the hell we did. I have no idea what we said, but
or maybe
perhaps,
we played it just right.
Maybe it was just right." But my point is what I love is that the buyer shift must have happened before we even got there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then because that she invited us, and regardless, we didn't keep talking our way out of that.
Yeah.
So
maybe
we didn't do too much to screw it up. Right?
We didn't do too much to screw it up. Yeah.
But
Luckily,
years later, we're still working together.
Luckily, we both ran out of questions. I had nothing else to say. So we had to leave.
I need to go back and ask, like, can you walk me through what happened? I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. We're close enough. I can do that now. It's awesome.
So I also think I want to point this out. This can also get a little tricky because sometimes when we are invited to the sale or when the buyer shift happens ahead of time, we take it for granted and we are way too assumptive.
Oh yeah.
And we feel like we don't have to.
Skip steps.
Yeah. So you start skipping stuff or you start assuming that, oh, this is in the bag. This is just more of a formality.
Yep.
And then you really screw it up long term.
Yep.
So it is a game for sure. I mean, you have to really kind of, and a lot of times, if I don't know exactly where we're at, I'll ask, I don't want to overkill you with details and stuff, but I also don't want to miss anything.
Very
so
true.
How much do you want to know?
Yep.
Like,
because there's some people that want to know the high level, most important things, and some people need to know every detail. Like, this isn't a DISC class, but like using just that basic personality DISC. Like the easiest explanation I've been given is, look, if you have a brand new, no, this is aging me, a new copier in your office. What's a copier? You have a copier in your office.
It's next to the fax machine.
The D shows up to figure out where the green button is and where the power button is, right?
Yes.
The I shows up for the party.
Yeah, because everybody's going to be there.
Everyone else is going to be there, right?
Learning how to use the copier.
S shows up because they were told to and they follow the rules. And the C shows up, and the first question they ask is, "Where's the instruction book?" Because they want to know every
what are your
detail.
credentials to be training me on this copier?
Right, and so so when you think about that with the buyer shift, like you said, if you're confused, it's okay just to say, "Hey, do you want more? Or do you want less?" Like, the Berenstain, is it the Berenstain Bears? The too hot, too cold, just right. Like
no,
sometimes
that's
it's
not the bear. That's Goldilocks.
Goldilocks and the
but Berenstain Bears are the legit too.
Okay. I'm a couple years removed now. I've got middle schoolers now and almost high schoolers.
I know.
So I think it's just really important to listen more, ask more open-ended questions. When you ask more open-ended questions, then you get a better cue into when people are ready or not ready to go to the next step. Remember that too much, too long is as much of a disservice as not enough in closing too assumptively. Yeah. On both sides, but an easy way to practice this, and I every time I have people that shadow me, it's so easy. All I ask is after an appointment of whatever kind it is, when did you know that I had them?
Oh, that's a great question.
That's it. Like, when was it? When do you think that they made that transition? because sometimes it's literally a statement, a change of pace. And for me, I see a lot, shoulders relax. There's so many people that are afraid in my industry of the mortgage process alone. They're just scared that when they finally realize, oh, it is going to be okay. I do qualify. The payment is, it is comfortable, my payment. You are really going to be able to close this in 30 days, whatever. Right. When they finally get their biggest issue, they go, then I realized that, okay, that was when the shift really probably happened. Yeah. And so, but if you
I'm glad you covered that, because my next question was going to be, is this a physical shift we're looking for? Or are you looking for like
tone
some
change
kind of,
Sometimes it's they just, all of a sudden it changes from they're in the audience to they start driving. Okay, I'm good. Go like what you did. Okay, I'm good. Where do I sign?
Yeah.
Right. Like it'll just like, that's the cue, loud and clear. They're reaching for their wallet. Like shut up and just do what they said. Right. So I just think it's super important to understand that. And also when you think about this, like if you're listening and you're not a salesperson, remember like this is not just about like literally commission sales. We're talking about kids and adults and that relationship. And I'll finish with one story and we'll move on. So you would ask like, what's going on with your daughter? Because my daughter's now going on her second date ever. And like, I'm aging very rapidly. In fact, I think you offered me like hair color to change my graying hair. Right. And so I'll tell you how she sold me on her first date because I think it's super interesting how she did it. So I'm asleep, and Tuesdays and Thursdays she usually goes to, and in the springtime anyways, track and field. Then after that she's going off to select volleyball practice. By the time she gets home, she's got homework, so I literally don't see her Tuesday, Thursday. Yeah. So I went to sleep, and it's probably like 11 o'clock at night, 11:30, and I feel somebody sit on my feet. So I wake up and I kind of look down. I was like, oh, what's going on? And Aubrey starts, I mean, she's better than me by a long shot, right? So she starts chatting me up. She's like, I just want to see how your day was. And she asked me like 10 minutes, 15 minutes of questions. And then eventually I'm asking her about how was your day? How are your friends? Who's the bad kid at school? Who's a good kid? Like just trying to get caught up. And she says, well, actually one of my good friends is going on a date this weekend. She's, I was curious what you thought about that. And I was like, I knew the kid and I knew the parents, they're friends of mine. And so, I didn't want to overstep.
I also think the idea of one of your friends going on a date is perfectly fine because it has nothing to do with me.
Yeah, exactly right. So I was like, listen, look, it's everyone's family is different. If their dad's fine with it and mom's fine with it, then I guess it's fine. She said, well, I'd be curious what you think because I got asked on the same date to go with them on the double date, and I'm like baffled here. Right,
walked right into it.
Right, I was like, wow, you were a good closer, dear. Like that was awesome. And I was quiet for about a minute and a half because when I went to my anger management courses a couple of years ago, what I learned is like we need to respond, not react. And so I'm sitting there and I'm quiet for about a minute and a half. And she said, Dad, did you hear what I said? I said, yes, but you don't want the answer right now. You'd probably want me to sleep. Yeah. I want to think about this and respond, not react. And so she left. And the next morning, I saw her for breakfast. She asked nothing. The next dinner, I saw her at dinner. We didn't talk about it. A whole another day goes by. I'm in the pantry organizing something or putting something back. Remember, she walks around behind me out of nowhere, just gives me a big hug, doesn't ask anything, walks away. Right. And in like just that quick moment, I finally made the decision. I was like, you know what? Just don't make me regret it. Because my heart was yelling, no, she's too young. And
do you really think that?
Yes. As a dad, yes. My daughter's way too young. She needs to be 40 before she goes on date. My mother disagrees with that time frame. But it just is what it is, right? Like my heart's like dying inside. Like my little girl's growing up and I don't like that speed and all that fun stuff. And so, but she gave me a big hug and then she left. Because if you think about it from a recognizing the buyer shift, like she came in, she gave me a big hug, she closed, she got the yes, and she freaking walked away, like get away from me. And I just thought that's kind of a relevant story. But she didn't push it when I wasn't ready. Yeah. I was not ready, so she did not close me.
I just can't. The only thing I can picture in my head is like Christy in the other room, like doing some coaching. She's like, you ready? You got this. Okay, go in. Go in.
You know what she said? All she did, she threw me on the bus. So she said, I'm fine if your dad is something like, I'm sure she said something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. Anyways, that is the newest and greatest on our side. And I hope this was a great episode for you with Sigman Sense. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love your comments. If you have a funny story, we'd love to hear that as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I want to hear anything about y'all's buyer shift moments, or the thing or the sales pitch you've totally botched. Those are great stories too. But yeah, you can find us everywhere. So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music. That's good. I got through the list. And then email us at sigmansense@gmail.com for questions or comments or whatever.
We're just hoping this helps. So keep in touch, and next time on Sigman Sense. Take care.